the possibility, two things. Either we get an official development assistance to support the development of the project. As you notice po, our other a lot of our projects in our NEP and in our GIAA are foreign assisted projects, or we can develop it as a solicited public-private partnership project. Because, Mr. Chair, if we develop it as a solicited PPP, then government can contribute land, for example. Unlike if it's an unsolicited PPP, we are not able to contribute anything.
Yeah, just I would like to follow up with that statement na you'll be completing the feasibility study. Is that not because I remember it right now from Secretary Tugadi before that feasibility study was already completed for this project during the budget hearings, the last of which was 2019 before COVID struck.
Anyone can confirm that from the DOTr?
Mr. Chair, we will confirm po. Again, we will check on the feasibility study, but what we can say we know is there's no NEDA board approval.
I agree with the NEDA board approval, but
Yes.
the feasibility study,
We're checking that.
yeah, thank you very much.
We will submit po an
Submit
update.
to the committee.
Yes, po.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair Bingo Matugas. Before we go to the next interpolator, I yield the chair to my colleague, Vice Chair Peter Calderon, to preside for the next interpolators.
Okay, to proceed, the next interpellator, we recognize Congressman Loreto Acharon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, the DOTr family. At the outset, may I just convey the message of gratitude by my people in the district of General Santos to your attached agency, the Marina, for help some parochial problems relating to the tuna industry in Jensen. This I am boldly declaring, despite the adverse negative comments of my colleagues. Rest assured that I still join my other colleagues in supporting the approval of the proposed budget of the DOTr. So anyway, I have only two general questions after all the other questions were already asked by my colleagues. First, this will be answered by any one of the undersecretaries. Mr. Chair, I just would like to know if you acknowledge, if the department acknowledge that your problem in the project implementation duration is really big or huge, because given the factors that you indicated, like right of way acquisition, the procurement process, among others. Is that
Yes, po, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, two big challenges. Two big challenges that usually lead to an extension of the implementation period. Number one po is on right-of-way acquisition, because even after we have, for example, procured a contractor already, the contractor is not able to fully mobilize and progress the works unless we have delivered right-of-way. So that is number one po. Number two is on procurement. As we know po, sometimes procurement takes time, either because your bidders would request for additional time, depending on the complexity of the project, or possibly in some cases, failed biddings. So So failed biddings are usually not incorporated in the original project implementation timeline, and that's why when it happens, it really causes delay. It really pushes a lot of things back. Because when you have those two, Mr. Chair, when you've procured already your contractor, and when you've already delivered your right of way, contractors are already self-incentivized. They will progress, because if they do not progress, they will not get paid. So the important thing is procure them, deliver to them the right of way, and then they will almost move by themselves. So, but unfortunately, the reality po, Mr. Chair, is that procurements do get delayed. Right of way acquisition gets delayed as well.
Mr. Chair, are these factors that are actually affecting your utilization rate, are these something new? Are these not all the factors that you could have addressed over the years?
Mr. Chair, they are not new in the sense that there were the same challenges before. But perhaps, Mr. Chair, one thing that's new is the scale. Let's say, for example, Mr. Chair, for rail, for example, the North-South Commuter Rail is an 870 billion peso project. The Metro Manila Subway project is a 480 billion peso project. And just 7 years ago, in 2016, the total budget of the department was only 45 billion pesos. So perhaps, Mr. Chair, the challenge of right of way, the challenge of procurement may not be new per se, but the scale at which the department is currently undertaking them is what's making it a challenge.
Given these factors, just moving forward, what steps or measures have you undertaken to improve our project implementation duration?
Mr. Chair,
Just to brief.
on those two things, first of all, on procurement, Mr. Chair, since most of our projects now are foreign assisted, we have to follow the procurement guidelines of our lenders, whether it's the Asian Development Bank or the Japan International Cooperation Agency. We work with them very closely po, because unfortunately, one of the unanticipated causes of delay is the amount of time it takes for our lenders to review and give concurrences. Because, Mr. Chair, when we're dealing with foreign assisted projects, there are milestones, there are major steps that have to go through review and prior concurrence of the lender. So we're trying to work with them, understand their process better, so that we reduce the time that it takes for those concurrences to be made. On right of way, Mr. Chair, there's a lot. For actually across the board, Mr. Chair, plain and simple head count. The department has been working on building up its right-of-way acquisition team, because at the end of the day, it's a boots on the ground issue. You need people to talk to the project-affected persons, to process the land titles at the city halls, at the registry. So that's one measure that's being taken. At the same time, Mr. Chair, one of the major right-of-way obstructions is utilities. So there are currently large-scale agreements with the utility companies, with Meralco, the National Grid Corporation, Manila Water, so that all of the project-affected utilities are dealt with on time by these utility companies. And finally, Mr. Chair, on informal settler families, one of the things that's being done there is really, especially for the foreign assisted projects, one of the requirements from the lenders is, for example, the interim rental subsidy. So even if it takes time to construct the resettlement sites, we are able to give them interim rental subsidy, so that contractors can mobilize, can come in, the affected informal settlers can temporarily reside elsewhere while their resettlement sites are being prepared. So these are just some of the measures, Mr. Chair, that are being taken to address those challenges.
Mr. Chairman, since the USEC has given one of the factors as that delays the implementation of the project, among which is the procurement process. Do you agree with some of the authors of a potential or a proposed measure that would perhaps introduce amendments or modification to the existing provisions of the procurement law? Are you one with us?
Yes, Mr. Chair. With respect to the department's locally funded projects, because again, the foreign assisted projects po are under a different set of rules, the procurement guidelines of our lenders. But for our locally funded projects, we have had very concrete and actually even very recent experiences of having to do a rebidding because of certain technicalities, certain constraints that are in our current RA 9184. The department, Mr. Chair, has been coordinating, has been working with the relevant committees in sharing, discussing inputs on the ongoing efforts to amend RA 9184. And rest assured po that from what we have experienced, the things that could have prevented a bid failure and that could have prevented a rebidding, we will be submitting po as inputs into this ongoing process of revisiting RA 9184 by Congress.
Okay. What is it in the procurement process other than the bidding that is making it hard for our project implementation so that we can make the necessary amendment or modification of the existing provision of the procurement law?
Mr. Chair, perhaps if we may compare an element of RA 9184 with our foreign lenders procurement guidelines. Okay. In RA 9184, there's this unbendable presence or absence rule. Even if the thing that's absent is trivial or technical, then that by itself is sufficient to call for a failure or disqualification or a rebidding. For our foreign lenders, they have the concept of a non-material non-conformity, for example. So if a non-conformity is non-material, then we are actually not allowed to disqualify, for example, on that ground. And the assessment of that is subject to, again, the review and concurrence of our lenders. So perhaps po, one example that can be cited on the difference and what could be considered or reconsidered in the ongoing amendments.
Thank you, Yusek.
The next to interpolate from the independent representative Edsel Lagman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In the allocation of appropriation, how much is the total outlay for the rail? In the allocation of appropriations, how much is the total outlay for the rail industry for 2024? And how much is the allocation for the public overland transportation?
Mr. Chair, Your Honor,
Yes, Yusek De Leon.
in the 2024 National Expenditure Program, a total of 162.47 billion pesos is intended to be utilized for various railway projects. For the road transport or land transport projects, Your Honor, the total amount in the NEP is around 5.973 billion pesos. 5.973 billion pesos, Your Honor, Mr. Chairman.
That's an enormous disparity. On a percentage basis, what is the differential between the two? the land transportation, and the railway system.
Your Honor, Mr. Chair, the allocation for the rail sector is 26 times bigger than the road sector's allocation.
And for the current year, how much is appropriated for the rail sector, and how much is appropriated for the land transportation sector?
Your Honor, Mr. Chairman, for the 2023 GAA, the appropriation for the rail sector is at 47.653 billion pesos, while the appropriation for the road sector is 6.977 billion pesos.
In other words, for the road sector, it has decreased.
Yes, Your Honor, Mr. Chairman. The allocation from 2023 GAA to 2024 NEP for the road sector, in fact, has decreased by about 1 billion pesos.
And what is the rate of disbursement with respect to the rail sector?
Your Honor, Mr. Chairman, for the rail sector, as of end of July, the disbursement rate over obligation for the rail sector is at 57.18%.
How about for the land transportation?
For the road sector, Mr. Chair, Your Honor, the disbursement rate is at 5.06%.
5.0%. The allocation for the road sector is very much less, but it is compounded by the measly disbursement rate. Is that correct?
That is correct, Your Honor, Mr. Chairman.
Why is that so?
The biggest contributor, Your Honor, Mr. Chairman, for 2023 for the low disbursement rate are two foreign assisted projects, namely the EDSA Greenways project and the Cebu BRT project, where we posted significantly low disbursement out of the available funds, Your Honor. Partly again, due to the ongoing right-of-way still acquisition, particularly for EDSA Greenways project, and the ongoing procurement for some of the contract packages for the Cebu Bus Rapid Transit project, Your Honor, Mr. Chairman.
And how many commuters on a daily as well as annual basis avail of the road transportation, and how many avail of the railway transportation?
Mr. Chair, as of our latest Mr. Chair, we don't have numbers nationwide, but we have numbers for the capital. As of our latest transport study for the Greater Capital Region in 2019, rail is at around 7%, and the balance po is all the other modes po.
In other words, there is more availment as far as your data with respect to the capital on road transportation compared to railway.
That's
On a
correct.
nationwide basis, can you extrapolate?
Mr. Chair, first of all, in the capital, the reason po for the very low numbers for rail is because we have very limited rail infrastructure. So that in big part explains po why the share of the total is very low. If we go nationwide, since we do not have any rail infrastructure outside of the capital, then it's likely po that the share of rail to to road transportation users is probably going to be much lower, much lower.
But since there are more commuters availing of road or land transportation, why are we allocating so much less for land or overland transportation?
Mr. Chair, if we may just clarify po, for our rail investments, the source of funding is only government. Whereas for road public transport, we share the fiscal burden, we share the investment burden with the private sector. For example, for PUV modernization, while the government is subsidizing up to 10-15% of the investment cost of a modernized jeepney, 85%, 90% is being covered by the private sector.
Mhm.
So the budget, the government budget for the road sector is not reflecting the total amount of investment that is going into the sector, because the total amount of investment includes both the government subsidy, the government budget, and the amount that is being shouldered by the private sector.
With respect to road transportation, how much is the share of the national government in investment?
Mr. Chair, our subsidy level for our PUV modernization program has been increasing. For example, from 6-7% to 15%. That's one. So, but that's only for the cost of the modernized jeeps.
What are the other aspects?
Major aspect, Mr. Chair, is the road where the road-based public transport is running on.
Mhm.
Because for all intents and purposes, Mr. Chair, the roads that are needed for the road-based public transport to operate is also a subsidy of the national government. It's just that in rail, it's integrated. We see under one
To make a long story short, how much is the government investment in its totality with respect to road transport?
Mr. Chair, very roughly, if we are going to look at an all government, from the government side, let's add the DPWH budget of 800 billion for road infrastructure, plus the 6.9 billion for road public transport. So that would be our investment in road-based transport, Mr. Chair.
But that amount of 800 million for the Department of Public Works and Highways is not solely for road construction. Is that correct? That's the universe of its budget. So I go back to my question. How much is the share of the government?
Mr. Chair, pardon me po, I am not aware of the split of the DPWH's budget as to how much is going to road infrastructure and ours.
Can you give us an educated guess? How much is the share on a percentage basis of the government? You opened this avenue for questioning because you said that there is more from the private sector than the government in road transportation. Then how much is the share of the government? If you don't have the data, kindly submit to the committee.
We will submit, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
We will submit.
Then how much is the share of the private sector in the road transportation system?
We can do that po, Mr. Chair.
You
We
don't
will
have the
submit.
data now. Okay, if you don't have the data, kindly submit to
Yes,
the
Mr. Chair.
committee.
Mhm.
Now, with respect to the modernization of the Bicol Railway, or you call that the South
Long Hall, Mr. Chair.
South Long Road Railway. What is now the status of this project?
Mr. Chair, may I be recognized?
Yes, please, Yusek Chavez.
Number one, there is an ongoing contract with China Railway Design Corporation. It's a 14 billion peso contract. The contract covers project management consultancy, should have been utilized for management supervision of the civil works and rolling stock contract. But in reality, the 142 billion signed contract by Secretary Tugadi sometime in February 2022 was not granted loan by the China Exim Bank. That's the reason why Secretary Dominguez withdrew the loan application to the China Exim Bank. Immediately upon the assumption of President Marcos, Secretary Bautista immediately requested the Secretary of Finance to reapply for the loan, and reapply for the loan, and the same is being processed by the National Economic Development Authority and by the Department of Finance. DOTr is an implementing agency, but the one that applies for the loan, negotiates for the loan, and signs for the loan is the Department of Finance. The latest po, since there is no funding for the civil works, rolling stock, electromechanical, the Secretary of Transportation informed our team and informally informed the economic team of the president that this year we must be able to get a definitive reply from the China Exim Bank. Otherwise, our options will be two. One is to terminate the project management consultancy with the China Railway Design Corporations, because unless it is terminated, Mr. Chair,
To make a long story short, Yusek Chavez, there is no loan.
there is loan for
Yes, but for
project
the,
management
for the-
consultancy, but not for the civil works. There's no loan.
there is no loan.
Opo,
So we could not even say when the civil works would start.
that is
And it
correct,
would
Mr.
end.
Chair. That is correct. That is absolutely correct, Mr. Chair.
And so at the moment, this so-called modernization of the Bicol Railway is still a pipe dream.
That is
No, no.
absolutely correct. There is no definitive source of funding for the civil works.
Well, has the problem of the resettlement of affected residents along the road been resolved?
We are addressing that. We're prioritizing where the Philippine National Railways is operating.
Do you have funding for that?
Do we have funding for that? And in fact, we have a
What is the stage of completion with respect to this resettlement of affected residents?
we are limited to 3.4 billion given to us by Congress, and the concentration, Mr. Chair, is from Calamba to Lucena, Lucena to Hundagua, because we are now utilizing, Mr. Chair,
So
the existing
wala
alliance.
pa sa Bicol region.
Wala pa po sa
Wala
Bicol
pa sa
region.
Bicol region. And what is your rate of accomplishment with respect to the resettlement of affected residents?
In the 3.4 billion contract with the National Housing Authority is in charge of that. There is going to be a turnover of some relocation sites in Lucena. Lucena, Tiaong, Candelaria,
Has
Quezon,
there been a relocation site already turned over?
yet to be turned over
Yet
po.
to be turned
Opo.
over. So wala pa.
Wala pa ho.
Wala pa.
But the funding was already
How about
downloaded
the
to
problem on the right of way.
right of way
Are you
covers.
addressing that also?
Yeah, right of way covers three things. One is the resettlement relocation of ISF. Second is the resettlement, relocation of utilities. And the third is the land acquisitions. We are utilizing, Mr. Chair, the PNR alignment. So there's ongoing meeting from technical to senior officials to the high level with the Meralco and other telcos, including the national.
On a percentage basis, how far is your accomplishment?
There's no funding yet for the relocation of resettlement because
No. With respect to, because it's the right of way will not affect only residents,
opo,
but it's probably landowners, etc.
there's no ongoing
Going.
procurement of private lots
Okay.
for a South Long Haul.
Well, that's good to know because we are nowhere.
Thank you. The next to interpolate will be Representative Bienvenido Abante. Vice Chair Bienvenido Abante.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Magandang hapon po sa ating DOTr family. Mr. Chair, ako lang yung magko-complain ng kaunti, ha? Pwede ba ba yun, Mr. Chair? Oh,
Pwede.
2004 pa ako dito eh. Ha? Okay. Pag budget hearing, maraming pangako eh. Pagkatapos ng budget hearing, tapos na ang mga pangako. Pag budget hearing, madaling kausap ang family ng mga ahensya. Pagkatapos ng budget hearing, na-approve na ang kanilang budget, hindi na sumasagot sa mga tawag namin. Except yung mga kaibigan ko dito. Hindi ko na sabihin ang pangalan. Totoo lang, no ha? Hindi lang yan, kundi may mga request tayo. For example, masyado na pong delayed. Sana naman po, magkaroon po naman tayo rito ng konting aksyon. You know, we're not just playing words here in this budget hearing. We're not just asking for help. And we are not just looking for promises. Mr. Chair, we want action from these agencies. Why? Because number one, Congress has the power of the purse. We are the ones that are actually approving the budget. Number two, nandun po kami sa lupa. We are at the grounds. We are the elected representative of the people, Mr. Chair. Tama ho ba ako, Congressman Rufus? Oh, yeah. Oh, ay ibig sabihin, the real complaint is not on the agency, but on us. On us, Mr. Chair, because we are the ones elected by the people. Kami ang nasisisi at nako-complain. Ngayon nakita ko po dito, mukhang kayo ay paborito ng DBM. Laki ng budget nyo. Oo. Your budget has increased to 102.25%. Am I right, Mr. Chair? Samantalang nagko-complain ang ibang agency na nabawasan po ang kanilang mga budget. But the DOTr, to my surprise, has the largest budget when we have attached agencies of the DOTr that are actually earning money, giving revenues to the government, like PPA, like CAP. Besides that, Mr. Chair, there's a lot of loans and grants that are being given to projects that we do not even know. Oh, I do not know if questions have been asked since this morning about the loans and the grants that have been given at DOTr as far as the many projects are concerned. Mamaya, tatanungin ko rin yung PPA, ano ba relasyon ninyo sa mga reclamation areas na even our own president ay pinagbawal ang pagkatayo until it is fully reviewed. But Mr. Chair, my first question would be, sabi ko nga sa inyo, halos doble ang budget nito para sa 2023 na 106 billion. Pero, to be very frank, Mr. Chair, bakit tila po yata nakalimutan naman bigyan ng budget ang karaniwang tao na gumagamit ng kalsada? Active transportation at yung PUB modernization. Sa ilalim ng 2024 NEP, ang budget para sa active transport infrastructure tulad ng bike lanes at pedestrian walkways ay binawasan ng 500 million mula sa budget na 2 billion noong 2022. Oo, pinapahinto na ako. Binibilisan ko na nga eh. Oo. Kasama ba yung complaint sa question? Hindi ba?
Kasama na.
Oo. Oh.
Sige, you can please proceed to your question.
It only has 7 million in the budget. Ako po yung naghintay mula pa kayo ng umaga. Number 41 po ako magki-question. Since this morning at 9 o'clock. Okay. So, gusto ko lang pong itanong, kung meron pang panahon, I beg Mr. Chairman to please give me the opportunity. Oh, total maganda naman ang complaint ko.
Sige, you ask your question now.
Hindi, Mr. Chair, tama lamang na tayong lahat dito hindi lamang mag-question, kundi mag-complain. Tama ho yun. That's the reason why there ought to be minutes to complain about the budget of any agency in this government. Oo. So, ang tanong ko ito, magkano po ang naka-allocate para sa active transportation infrastructure sa taong 2024?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Yusek De Leon.
Your Honor, the amount approved that is included in the 2024 NEP for active transport is 500 million out of our original proposal of 1.996 billion pesos.
Okay? So magkano po ang nakalaan sa tulong subsidy o ayuda ng gobyerno sa PUB Modernization Program para sa 2024?
Your Honor, Mr. Chairman, no amount is included for the PUV modernization program under 2024 NEP, although we have originally proposed 1.8 billion pesos.
Magkano po naman nakalaan ng
Last question.
2024 para sa libreng sakay program sa Metro Manila?
Libreng sakay is what we know as service contracting, Your Honor. Out of the 10 billion that we have proposed for this program, not a single amount is included in the NEP, Your Honor.
Totoo ba sa zero budget ang nilaan ng DOTr para sa PUV? Zero budget po ba yun? Hindi.
For PUV MP, Your Honor, Mr. Chairman, we proposed 1.8 billion, but it was not granted, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chair, sana lang pwede. Kung pwede po ba?
Last question.
Nakikiusap po ako sa inyo.
Last
Mamaya po,
question.
meron pa ba bukas, Mr. Chair?
May second round.
May second round?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Kung hindi lang sa mga kaibigan ko dito, papatipir ko muna yung budget ng DOTr eh. At any rate, Mr. Chair, ito na lang po, para sa railways transport program natin, DOTr allocated 107 billion in 2021, 112 billion in 2022, and 120 billion in 2023. At ngayon, 2024, ang proposed budget for railways ay 163.7 billion pesos out of the 214 billion proposed budget for the entire DOTr. Ibig sabihin, halos 76% ng budget ng DOTr ay mapupunta lamang sa railways transport program. Pakipaliwanag nga po ito.
Mr. Chair, nabanggit po ang 2020, 2021, 2022 at 2023. Noong 2020 po, 57% ang disbursement rate. Noong 2021, 55%. Noong 2022, umabot ng almost 100%. Ngayon po, 2023 as of July 31, ang ating disbursement rate ay nasa 56% na. Bakit ho malaki ang pondo sa RILES? At bakit lalong lumaki sa panahong ito? Sapagkat yung Manila to Malolos is an ongoing project. That's about 185 billion. Yung Malolos to Clark is an ongoing project. All contracts have been awarded already. Sa panahon ng Marcos administration, yung packages Manila, 01, 02, 03, 4, 5 hanggang 7 ho. Calamba, Manila to Calamba, about 56 kilometers and 19 stations, been awarded sa taong ito at nung nakaraang taon under the Marcos administration. Imagine ho, ng proyektong ito ay almost 190 billion. ang minimum na contract award sa bawat kontrata is between 15 to 20 billion. Ito pong Manila to Calamba using PNR alignment, 49% is PNR alignment, other government agencies. So malaki ho ang pondo na hiningi para sa taong ito sapagkat maliban doon sa Manila to Clark, may bago ho tayong nilagdaang kontrata sa ilalim ng Marcos administration, and that's Manila to Calamba po. Maliban pa sa subway.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Talagang magaling magpaliwanag si Yusek Chavez.
Thank you, Congressman Abante.
Talagang
Vice Chair
tanggapin mo talaga yung paliwanag niya. Mr. Chair. Pero hindi pala, hindi ko natatanungin ng PPA. Ang nais ko na lang, saan pa yung PPA natin?
Your time is up.
Opo, basta hindi ko tatanong. Sabihin ko na lang, yung kanilang relasyon sa relocation program, reclamation program, sapagkat kasama Maynila ron eh. Apektado kami dun eh. So I just would like to find out, hindi na kinakailangan sagutin, bigyan na lang ako ng paliwanag dito to the committee.
Maybe you can
Yes.
answer the question in writing.
We will do so, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
The next to interpolate is Congressman Antonieta Yubela. Congresswoman Ana York Mundo.
Thank you for the opportunity to join you po this evening, Mr. Chair and Madam Chair. So magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat. And to the DOTr family, thank you very much for hearing us out. I'd like to inquire po kasi po our district is the 4th District of Pampanga. Doon po dadaan po yung aming the railway po from Valenzuela to Clark. And I would like to thank you, Cesar Chavez po, and ASEC Georgia Takino for very thoroughly informing us po sa mga plans nila, and also for the 80 million po for our feasibility study. Maraming salamat po. I would just like to inquire po, ito pong railway na to is currently under construction. It's undergoing dumadaan po siya sa mga tatlong bayan po namin. That includes Apalit, Santo Tomas, and Minalin. Ngayon po, as you know, for those who have been closely following the news the last month, these areas were severely flooded. In fact, today, kahit simpleng ulan lang po, baha na naman. So when Yusek Chavez came to our office, Mr. Chair, Madam Chair, I brought up the issue that we're putting a ₱1 billion project in a area that is severely flooded. Ngayon po, ang sabi po nila sa akin, yun po yung kanilang road right of way ng gobyerno. So they have no choice kasi yun po yung dating dinadaanan po ng PNR. My question is, paano po tayo though I understand the railway is gonna be elevated. Ano po? Kaya lang, I would like to inform Mr. Chair and Madam Chair that all roads leading to this railway are currently very severely flooded po last month, and ngayon moderately flooded na lang po. So ano po ang, have we done any coordination with the Department of Public Works and Highways, and how are we going to impress upon them po na we have to continue to put flood control projects? Kumbaga kailangan nating maglagay ng flood control projects sa area, kung hindi po, babahain po, nakabaha na nga po lahat ng roads leading to the railway. So baka ho, napakaganda na railway natin, pagdating ho ng mga tao, magbabangka po sila papunta sa tren. So paano po yun?
Two things before, Mr. Chair, may I be recognized?
Yusek Cesar.
Okay, two things. Number one, the alignment of Manila to Malolos, Malolos to Clark was approved by National Economic Development Authority, and therefore DPWH was part in the decision-making process. Second, in the course of the determination of the alignment, there were massive consultations with during the FS stage. And after this FS stage, there was a massive consultations. Number two, the original design of Manila to Malolos and Malolos to Clark was embankment. Ilang metro lang ho yun. But recognizing the fact, the historical data has shown of the flooding in Bulacan, Pampanga, and elsewhere. That's the reason why the design of the railway project was elevated, double track, and electrified. Now, Undersecretary TJ Batan, Mr. Chair, may be recognized because he's in charge of the convergence of DOTr and DPWH, so that the DPWH this early should plan and make some budgeting in the road widening and some embankment leading to railway stations, not only in Pampanga and Bulacan, and elsewhere. Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Yusek Cesar.
Mr. Chair, if I may be recognized po.
Congresswoman.
Thank you so much, and please, we would appreciate po yung input ninyo.
Thank you, Yusek Batan.
Thank you very much po. Mr. Chair, the DOTr po has a convergence program, a convergence budgeting program with the DPWH. It's called po, katuparan po yung tawag, kalsada tungo sa Paliparan, Riles at Taungan. Essentially po how it works is the DOTr po every year, we would submit our recommended list of projects to the DPWH. The purpose of that list of projects is to improve the accessibility of our projects. So for example po, the stations in Apalit and in Minalin, meron na po yang mga accessibility improvement projects, road network improvement projects that have been submitted to the DPWH. Si DPWH po, since limited po yung budget nila for that convergence program every year, they prioritize. So throughout the list, the long list of DOTr po, they prioritize which ones to do first, here, and there. So that will improve po the accessibility of the roads leading to our train stations, for example, in Minalin and Apalit. Now, on the question po of flooding, there is an ongoing effort po from DPWH side to improve the river basins affecting po Bulacan and Pampanga area. Flooding po kasi ma'am is it's a network issue. In order to solve flooding, it requires intervention not just at the specific place where the flooding is occurring. It needs intervention upstream here, upstream there, build a dam here, do some siltation, dredging here, and so on and so forth. And there are ongoing projects po by the DPWH that are meant to address that. So those two things po, number one, the convergence budgeting will improve the road network to make the stations more accessible, and the ongoing river basin projects of DPWH is intended naman po to address the flooding situation in a sustainable manner. Yung hindi lang po yung, it really won't work po kasi if you just deal with it where the flooding happens. It has to go upstream the different sources of the flood water. Thank you po.
Thank you, Yusek Batan. May I commend Yusek Cesar Chavez, seeming to be the only agency to be right on schedule out of what Congresswoman Stella Kimball said, 23 priority projects. May I salute the railway led by Yusek Cesar Chavez, and also Yusek Lim for trying to make sense out of some chaotic environment. Thank you.
If I may.
The last, yes, Congresswoman.
Opo. Thank you so. May I continue po? Okay na. Thank you so much
Yes.
for sharing that. Kaya lang po, ang ganda mong pakinggan, but the reality is not that way. And I am well aware po of how we solve flooding problems. So ganito po, I'm just concerned that you put $1 billion billion dollar, hindi lang billion peso billion dollar na po tayo with multiple loans from Japan in the most flooded areas of the Philippines. Meanwhile po, we are held by hanggang dito lang daw po yung ceiling. So ang ano ko po talaga dito is this is not a normal project. And the area is not a normal area. Hindi po ordinary convergence po ang ating pinag-uusapan. When if we don't work together po to have a good flood control and funded flood control and convergence plan, yung katuparan nyo po hindi po natutupad. We will end up po riding a boat going to the train, which is going to kung natapos po yung tren nyo ngayong araw na to, magbabangka po tayo papunta sa tren na yan. So I would suggest po that we need to work together po. And we need to get a firm commitment from the Department of Public Works and Highways. Kasi po pag natapos po yung ating tren, ano po ang silbi nun kung wala naman pong makakapunta doon? Though we will be eliminating the cars in this issue both to train po tayo unless pag-usapan po ng ganito kaaga. They will tell you many things, but if you go there, you will see the water. So yun lang po. And again, if I may, I'd like to bring up po the Manila North Road. Yung NLEX po, yung flooding. Nabanggit po nabanggit po ni the Department of Tourism that they coordinated po with the DOTr nung nagkaroon po ng 10-kilometer and 5-hour Carmageddon po on the NLEX. As we well know, there are only two roads going to the north, the NLEX and the Manila North Road. The Manila North Road today remains completely flooded. The NLEX is possible to flood at any time. So, ano po yung contingency plans nyo in case po they gave naman po money para itaas daw yung daan. But we all know po na pag tinaas ang daan, yung tubig po pupunta sa the lowest point. So magtaas ka dito, paparil po yung tubig dito. So my question is, I consider it unwise to have only two major roads going to the north, both of which are already threatened. Ano po ang suggestion ng DOTr to maintain an open transportation? Kasi po, even going to the airport was no longer possible. Na late po yung mga tourists. It took them 5 hours to go from Pampanga, from the Clark Airport to Manila, from Manila to the Clark Airport. So ano po ang inyong contingency plans dito?
DOTr.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Mr. Chair, our TRB Executive Director, ED Alvin, perhaps po you can share the parallel road project to NLEX.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, you're sleeping.
actually, Mr. Chair, we are already ongoing the design stage of another parallel tollway, the North Access Link Expressway, which will be from the Skyway at Balintawak up to the NAMI or the New Manila International Airport and up to Tiplex. So that's the parallel tollway that we are constructing right now.
What is your target date?
It's 2028. The
What?
timeline is up to 2028.
2028. Congresswoman, Ana?
I am totally unaware of this, saan po ito, and can we sit down about this? Dadaan po ba ito sa distrito namin? I guess so, because it's from the Skyway to the airport.
Yes.
Tama po ba ako?
Yes po, Mr. Chair. Yes po, it will traverse some municipalities of Bulacan and Pampanga, Your Honor.
Thank you for not considering us during your discussion.
Actually, ma'am, there's no alignment yet. The project proponent is now in the design stage. The project alignment is not yet submitted with TRB, but the project is already approved by the former president last administration. The supplemental toll operation agreement was already approved, but the project alignment itself, it's not yet submitted with the toll regulatory board.
Ang bilis nyo naman nag-approve, hindi nyo man alam kung saan dadaan.
There's a basic alignment, but the final alignment or the final engineering design is not yet submitted, Mr. Chair.
Congresswoman,
Ito lang po, as one of those municipalities na possibly dadaanan ng this mysterious alignment, which was approved without anyone even consulting us. I would suggest that before we move forward on this, that we need to be, all stakeholders need to be consulted. Hindi po pwedeng gagawa na lang po kayo without talking to us. Kasi po, we need to know po road right-of-way issues at saan po dadaan. And environmental issues po. We need to talk about that. So I would suggest before we move forward, mag-usap po muna tayo.
thank you, Congresswoman. Your
I would
director.
suggest we do this before your plenary.
Yes, yes, Mr. Chair. Actually, the project proponent is right now consulting the stakeholders. Actually, I attended the public scoping in Hagonoy and also with some municipalities. And there, I think there's some resistance with respect to the alignment. So they are now studying the NALEX po. Ito po yung NALEX.
Yes, you are directed to consult first with the appropriating entity.
Mr. Chair, NALEX po. And they are now procuring the proper environmental clearance from the DNR.
Maybe you didn't get it. You have to consult Congresswoman Banda.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair, for that advisory. So sa TRB po, before you do anything, the most important is to talk to the persons involved. And I would suggest po, we've been hearing mysteriously about this NALEX. And it's the first time po that I actually met someone. So I would like to discuss this po before your plenary.
Thank you, Congresswoman. The next to interpolate is
Salamat po and good evening and best of luck po sa DOTr family. Salamat po.
thank you, Congresswoman.
I'd like to ask the rail sector. Could you explain a little bit about what's the PPP model for the subway, Metro Manila subway? There's 68 billion for 2024. It's such a large amount. Could you just elaborate a little bit?
Mr. Chair, may I, if permitted, the one in charge of the project development and planning for the PPP, so railway project, is the Undersecretary for Project Development and Planning.
Thank you po, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, the Metro Manila Subway Project is structured as a hybrid ODA PPP. What that means po is the build or the capex is being financed with an official development assistance loan from JICA and being implemented by government. So that is the ODA part. While the PPP part is the operations and maintenance. So as the build, as the capital asset is completed, it will be handed over to an operations and maintenance concessionaire for operations.
So the 68 billion is essentially for the capex, and this is actual payment to construction, or this is part of foreign loan?
The 68 billion, it's a combination of GOP counterpart and loan proceeds. The loan proceeds are the payments to the contractors coming from the loan. It's not loan repayment. Loan repayment will start 12 years from 2021. So these are payments to contractors, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so GOP counterpart, essentially. Okay, thank you. There are a lot of good discussion about the rail projects. There's a lot of budget for it for next year. But I'm disappointed. Do you know that one of the biggest gainers for mass transit is to make EDSA the main thoroughfare, seamless travel? Have you done any work on finding ways to connect MRT3 to Line 1? Because if you connected to Caloocan Monumento, I know you will add at least 300,000 ridership.
In 2010, when I was with LRTA, Mr. Chair, if I may be recognized, That was the plan, actually to reconnect seamless operation of LRT Line 1 to MRT 3. Unfortunately, the current policy environment is that MRT 3 stands alone and LRT Line 1.
Yusek, please talk near the sound.
Sorry. Unfortunately, the current policy is that MRT3 is operating on its own and standalone, while the LRT Line 1 operates standalone. And there is a development now there is a development now in the railway sector. There is a proposal for a seamless operations of LRT Line 1 and MRT3, but that is not yet official. It has been submitted to us, and the Office of Undersecretary TJ Batan is initially doing the study on the proposal.
So that's only maybe 2-3 kilometers. It wouldn't cost you so much. So why is not that a priority? Why is that not the policy?
At the moment, the government has a concession agreement with LRMC, only up to limited up to Roosevelt Station, and currently the maintenance and operation, the concession, the government has a contract also on the other hand with JICA/Sumitomo. It's two separate contracts but we hope to come up with a solution before 2025, and the Office of USEC TJ Batan is focused on that. The reconnection and seamless operation of MRT3 and LRT Line 1.
And you agree that would be a good project?
It would be a good project. That was our original proposal in 2010.
Yeah, well, you need to push that. That's a big mass transit game. There was a discussion earlier that in some of the PPP contracts now, the right of way responsibility has been transferred to the private. Could you explain what the provisions are? I think that's interesting, and I think that's probably good. Could you expound a little bit on that?
Yes, ma'am, through the chair. An example po would be MRT7. The way that the MRT7 concession is structured, part of the total project cost is a line item for right-of-way acquisition. And the concessionaire would undertake right-of-way acquisition up to that amount. And whatever the final amount is becomes part of the actual project cost at the end of the project. And that translates to the availability or the amortization payments that will be payable by government to the concessionaire.
What's the check and balance on the amount spent?
The check and balance is the application of the same rules as when government does it, which is that the pricing has to be based on fair market value conducted by an independent property appraiser that is accredited by both the SEC and the Bangko Sentral.
Okay, thank you.
I just would like to find out the loans being granted our railway projects, Mr. Chair. How much would that be? All of the how many projects? How many projects do we have as far as the railway system is concerned, and how much loans were we able to get from that?
Mr. Chair, if I may be recognized, there are the following foreign assessed projects. One is the LRT Cavite extension. The second, LRT Line 2 East extension going to Masinag Antipolo. Next is the MRT4. This is Taytay going to EDSA via Ortigas. The Metro Manila Subway. The North-South Commuter Railway Project, Manila to Calamba, Manila to Malolos, and Clark. Supposedly, the Philippine PNR South Long Haul, we have a current foreign loan with China Exim Bank. We have the Subic Clark railway project. So these are foreign funded project, Mr. Chair, if I may. The budget of 163 billion for rail sector alone. This covers about 10 billion. The 10 billion is for MRT3 alone. MRT3, 2.3 billion for rehabilitation, 1.2 billion for maintenance. And 7 billion, less than 7 billion is for the equity rental subsidy. This is the monthly payment to the Sobrepeña Group between 600 million to 700 million, to as high as 800 million a month. That's about 6 billion. Of the foreign assisted project po, the loan proceeds is about 74 billion. So if we have 163 billion for the rail sector, 10 billion for the MRT3 alone, and the 74 billion foreign assisted project, and the 76 billion is the GOP. So the 74 billion covers the advance payment, the progress billing for the railway project. So hindi ho kasali dito ang right of way, because the 76 billion refers to right of way. If I may inform this committee to give an idea on how much is going to be spent in the next few weeks. Halimbawa ho, Pisam, it's 5.3 billion. In Parañaque, Maynilad, we are supposed to pay Maynilad about 4 billion. The National Housing Authority additional 2.3 billion, and another project, MMSP.
So, Mr. Chair, that would be, the right of way would be in the budget of the DOTr.
It is.
It is.
The obligation po of the Department of Transportation, the Philippine government, and the railway project is right of way, relocation of utilities, relocation of ISF, land acquisition. For example, Manila to Calamba, that's about 56 kilometers, 19 stations. The PNR property is about 30 meters, but the design of the station ranges from 35 to 38 width. The length is 180 to as high as 300 meters, which means we need to acquire private lands beyond the PNR property of 30 meters.
Yeah, that's very good information, Mr. Chair. I would like to request that the good Yusek or Cesar Chavez submit to us the listings of such loans and the companies that gave those loans, and of course the contractors who will be building it. So may I request that, Mr. Chair?
Maybe, Mr. Chair, we will comply immediately. We can do this tomorrow. The list of all contractors, consultants, including the foreign assisted projects and the local counterparts.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I hope also that the PNR would look into my complaint on the illegal construction that has been even established by the DOTr, you know, in Bantacan, in my own district. I would like to find out when that will be demolished. All right, because in my district alone, you have a lot of properties being occupied by informal settlers, a lot of them. Okay.
Congressman Rufus Rodriguez is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question is to our good friend who has always the facts in his fingertips, Yusek Chavez. Regarding the feasibility study, 100 million. Thank you so much. Immediately when you started your term as Secretary Bautista, I met you in his office and we were able to immediately act and secure 100 million. Now, this is clearly 100 million is for the Cagayan de Oro light rail system, because the other one is the second phase of the Mindanao railway system. So do we know whether the 100 million will already come out with the light rail system of Cagayan de Oro City?
We expect contract signing next month, Mr. Chair, and we would like to invite the honorable gentleman from Cagayan de Oro and others to be present in the contract signing with a firm to do the FS for the North Mindanao / Cagayan de Oro Railway project. Next month po.
Thank you. So thank you for the invitation. I will be present, God willing. So, but this is the 100 is for the light rail system Cagayan de Oro. Because as I've submitted to you, may project study na yung Cagayan de Oro to Lagindingan to Iligan phase that we have. There's another story. The 100 million should be Cagayan de Oro light rail system. The Cagayan de Oro to Lagindingan and Iligan is another one. There is already a project study. Speaker Nogales at the time gave us 70 million for the OTC to have that. So this should only be for Cagayan de Oro high rail system.
Sir, the Undersecretary for Project Development and Planning, who is in charge of looking for funding for FS, told me that it can be taken from the 900 million FS.
Okay, so you mean that the 100 million is with the Cagayan de Oro, Lagindingan, and Iligan? May we know, because we have to be clarified, no? Iba yung Cagayan de Oro system, iba yung Northern Mindanao Railway System.
Sir, if I may, just to clarify, Mr. Chair, thank you. Sir, the Mindanao Railway Project Phase 3, which covers some parts of Misamis Oriental and Cagayan de Oro, covers indicative alignment, Lagindingan Airport, Alobihid, El Salvador, Opol, Cagayan de Oro Grand Central, Cagayan de Oro East, Taguluan, and Villanueva. This is the indicative. This is not yet final, but this is the indicative alignment of the earlier I said to be signed next month.
So there will be 2 points in Cagayan de Oro, as you have said, because we wanted to have really Cagayan de Oro light rail system. So I don't know if that may we know from our planning, because our requirement is Cagayan de Oro, and then later on, because we cannot have the same Cagayan de Oro as the railway phase 3, because it jumps from the city going to Lagindingan and Iligan. So that's why early your representative was there in the hearing of the RDC, and that is what we're requesting. The 100 million is for Cagayan de Oro City alone.
Through the chair. Mr. Chair, just to clarify po, there are 2 projects. Okay, the first project po is the interregional, the one that's going to come from Iligan to Cagayan de Oro, and that will eventually connect to the broader Mindanao rail system. So that's project number 1 po. This is, we refer to this po as Mindanao Rail Phase 3, and this is what we have already secured funding from the PPP Center, and which we will be signing already next month. So that's project number 1. Project number 2 po, Mr. Chair, is the within Cagayan de Oro light rail system. This one po, we will be utilizing part of our feasibility study line item for 2024. So thankfully po, hopefully it gets retained. For 2024 po, we have a feasibility study fund or line item from which we can utilize po for that purpose. Mas advanced lang po yung project 1, but we'll try to catch up po on the feasibility study for project number 2.
Thank you very much. That's very clear. 2 projects. One will be 100 million. It's part of the phase 3 of the Mindanao Railway. The other one is Cagayan de Oro. Thanks so much.
Isa na lang para hindi na ako mag-round 3. Earlier, I asked about whether you had projects that were not in delay, and you gave me a listing of projects. But Yusek Batan, I checked, they were all, except for one, 2024 projects. Only one are in the 2023 GAA. The rest are 2024 NEP projects. Okay, be that as it may, I think it's clear naman to us that many of your projects are really in delay. And the reason for why I ask you is because we want to help you. How can we unburden you? I mean, how can we help you? So I believe that the big problem really is in right of way, right? Tama ba ako? Okay, so what about creating special courts for right of way, right? So we've heard this many, many times, but why can't we just get this initiative started, right? So we can file a bill. We can even ask LADAC to include it in the priority. Kasi problema to ng DPWH, problema ito ng DOTr. Ang laking tulong naman ito, di ba? So why don't you, have you ever actually crafted a bill
we
Have you ever tried to talk to LEDAC? Because we can help push that sa LEDAC. Kasi for sure, tutulungan kayo ng DPWH, pati ang DepEd may problema sa right of way at marami pang ibang ahensya, di ba? So I'm sure this is something that you can pitch. I'm sure the president will agree that this is a very important issue and this is one way to actually address it squarely. So just your thoughts on it.
Mr. Chair, may I be recognized briefly? We submitted our position paper to the ongoing discussion to amend right-of-way law 10725. And one of the recommendations the DOTr submitted is the creation of the special court, special expropriations court. It's because it's the rail projects in particulars is humongous, and there while the Manila to Clark and Manila to Calamba is about 75% government-owned property, but there is ambiguity as to whether or not how do we proceed with a government agency. I heard this from you, Madam Mr. Chair, that from one packet to another, should we be paying the Department of Defense for the station in Campo Aguinaldo? Should we paying the Department of Defense in the BGC, the Veterans Golf Club? Should we be paying BCDA and the Clark? Should we be paying the BCDA and somewhere in Taguig properties? It's one from one pocket to the other. It should reduce the cost and the 76 billion that is required of us for all these railway projects, largely for right of way. Two things: special expropriation and the definitive rule. When a alignment is already determined and approved by NEDA, should we be paying? Should DOTr be paying government like the PCGG? A court is a special. That's one ho. Kasi marami hong mga private owners. So it's not only about government. But I'm saying the other point, ma'am, is what rules should govern in the acquisition of a DOTr example as a railway owner, as a project owner, to another government property, for instance, NHA, case in point, NHA ho, Quezon Avenue. Pabalik-balik ho kami eh. Sabi nila, o sige, right of way usage agreement. So okay na po kami, right of way usage agreement, therefore we should not be paying them para yung development rights sa NHA. Bumalik naman ho sa amin ang government. Hindi, bayaran nyo na lang kami. O, hindi lang kami babayaran doon sa station box, more or less 1 hectare. Oh, bayaran nyo na rin yung additional 1.6 hectares sapagkat baka kailangan ninyo ito at hindi na namin magamit. So may ganun ho. Walang maliwanag na batas na nag-govern kapag ang pag-aari ba ng gobyerno ang lupa at ang proyekto naman ay gobyerno. Dapat bang i-expro? Dapat bang bayaran namin o right of way usage agreement? Kapag right of way usage agreement ho, makakatipid ang gobyerno. Because narinig po namin ito sa inyo in the last committee hearing in last year, from one packet to the other. Baka makaka-reduce ng project cost.
Submit na lang po, submit ng recommendations inyo sa amin. Thank you.
These are the championship round, so this would be the last one.
Thank you,
Okay.
Mr. Chair. First, let me ask the USEC for rail. If you look at your projects which are ongoing construction, let's look at North-South Commuter Railway System. Di po ba? At ang progress po nito, your design is 69%, 69.25%. That's from Malolos to Clark. And from Malolos to Tutuban, it's 80.89%. And from Manila to Calamba, it's 71.76%. Insofar as the design portion is concerned. Now let's go to your
right of way. For the first Malolos to Clark, it's 67.4%. Malolos to Tutuban, 83.33%. Manila to Calamba, 57.23%. Ngayon, pupunta tayo dito sa controversial na portion, which is procurement. Ang procurement ninyo for Malolos to Clark is 93.94%. For Malolos to Tutuban, it's 93.36%. And for Manila to Calamba, it's 71.65%. Now, the fourth part of your report is construction. Construction for the first part is 5.65%. For the second, Malolos to Tutuban, it's 30.92%. And from Manila to Calamba, 0%. Pero kung titingnan po natin yung percentages, ang tataas ng procurement. Ano po ba yung pre-procure ninyo dito? The first question.
Civil works, electromechanical, and rolling stock. Yung civil works po sa Manila to Malolos, isa na lang po ang kulang ho natin. That is CP05, that is Tutuban. Tutuban area po. Pagdating po sa sa rolling stock, na procure na po natin ang mga bagon para sa Malolos to Manila. Na procure na rin po natin yung mga bagon para sa Malolos to Clark. Ang hindi na lang po natin award ay ang express train, kaya hindi pa po kompleto ang procurement dyan. But civil works ng Malolos to Clark, tapos na po lahat yun. Civil works ng Manila to Calamba, tapos na po lahat yun.
Yusek Cesar, yung procurement po natin ay 93 at saka 71. Nandyan na rin yung mga bagon. Sabi po ninyo, di po ba?
Hindi pa ho kasi awarded yung...
Hindi nga. Sagutin nyo muna ako, Yusek. Nandyan na po yung mga bagon. Sabi nyo kanina eh.
Opo.
Yes. Now, may I know where they are stocked? Meron po ba ang lugar na naka-stock ng mga bagon na binili natin and they are protected from the elements? Please answer my question directly.
Mayroon pong ginagamit tayong depo sa Malanday. Siyan po ay temporary pero hindi pa ho yan ang tamang pagkalagyan ng ating mga bagon po.
Thank you. But if you look at your construction, for the first part, it is 5.65%. For the second, Malolos to Tutuban, it's 30.92%. And for Manila to Calamba, it's 0%. May I ask, ilang taon pa ba ito gagawin?
Yung Manila to Calamba ho ay kagagawa lang po. Kung ang right of way ho natin, best case scenario 1.5 years ay matatapos. Ang civil works po ay nasa 3 hanggang 4 na taon. At pagkatapos ng civil works po, mayroong 18 months para sa electromechanical and another 6 months para sa testing and commissioning. Yun po ang timeline po natin dyan sa Manila.
Total of? A total of how many years?
It's about 5 to 6 years po.
5 to 6 years.
Opo.
Nandyan na po yung mga bagon. In 5 to 6 years, hindi na po ba sila sira?
Yung bagon po natin na dumating lang ay 2 train sets lang po. Wala pa ho yung mga bagon, nasa Japan pa ho.
Well, yung inyong equipment is 93.94%. So, ibig nyo sabihin ba is 6% na lang yung natitira sa bagon?
No, sir. Mr. Chair, ang bagon po ay wala, na-procure na po.
Na-procure na nga po.
Pero hindi pa ho na-deliver. Nasa Japan po,
So,
overwhelming majority po.
they are not yet delivered.
Wala pa ho at ang usapan ho natin diyan, ang delivery nila ay by 2026, 2027. Karamihan po dyan ay 2027
Yes.
po.
I am asking this question, Yusek, dahil may binili po tayo na Dalian trains, di po ba? Yes?
Sorry po, pwede po bang maiulit po yung tanong?
Hindi po ba may binili tayo dati na Dalian train before you came into that office? Tama?
Opo, may binili ho.
Yes, and it's not fitted for the rail that is existing. Tama?
Not fitted para sa mga equipment sa depot, but not necessarily sa rails.
Hindi nga magkasya doon sa rail. Hindi nga natin magamit eh. Diba?
Kasya po siya sa rails, ang hindi po siya kasya ay sa mga equipment sa loob ng depot. Like the
So in other words, hindi natin magamit.
Hindi ho natin magamit, maliban po sa dahilang yan, wala pa hong testing and commissioning yung iba.
And we also have procured 120 trains o bagon, di po ba?
Tama po, sa
Yes.
line 1 po.
And they're not still being used.
Ginagamit na po. 2 train sets na ho ang ginamit. At pagkatapos na nagkaroon ng problema ho ng water leak, ay sinuspend ho natin ang pagbabayad noon immediately nung nalaman po natin. And after that series of discussions, presentations on how to rectify the water leak issue, pagkatapos ng Japan consultant sabi okay na yan, sa amin din ang tingin namin okay na yan, na-test na ho na okay. So isinasagawa na po ang rectification and 3 hanggang 4 na train sets ang committed ho nila na matatapos kada buwan, and by November, inaasahan po natin yung 120 trains ay completed na. Sa ngayon po, 2 train sets na ang gumagana sa linya.
The next question, Mr. Yusek, is that bakit po kaya mas mataas ang percentage ng procurement aspect ng inyong projects?
Ang procurement ho, if I may qualify, is not a physical delivery but the procurement awarded contract already po. So ang qualification po ng pagbanggit sa aming report na procurement already awarded but not yet turned over ho. So ibig sabihin ho, nagkaroon
Hindi pa bayad?
Hindi pa ho. Marami ho dyan ay hindi pa ho bayad. Advance payment pa lang po.
Pag sinabi po na 100% na yung procurement, hindi pa bayad?
Hindi pa ho. Progress billing ho yan. Advance payment. Ang sinasabi ho ng 100% procurement is already awarded.
Thank you. Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Tapusin ko na nga ito. I think it would be Yusek Kim who would be able to answer this. If we look at your Metro Manila Subway Project Phase 1 and your North-South Commuter Railway System, in accordance with the presentation of your NEP for 2023, yung Metro Manila Subway Project would or has an amount of 26.2 billion, and your North-South Commuter Railway System has 75.1 billion. Tama po, Mr. Yusek.
Mr. Chairman, for our NEP, MMS Metro Manila Subway has 68.37 billion.
That's for 2024. I'm
Yes, Your
speaking
Honor.
of 2023.
For 2023, Your Honor, Mr. Chairman, sorry, what we have now is the GAA, Your Honor. We'll have to retrieve the
Your
2023 NEP.
DOTr has for Metro Manila Subway is 11.2.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Yes, from 26.2 in the NEP, naging 11.2 sa GAA,
That is correct, Your Honor.
which is a reduction, right?
That is correct, Your Honor.
Now, for your North-South Commuter Railway System, it's 75.1 billion in the NEP and 25.1 billion in the GAA.
25.1, yes, Your Honor.
Yes. Now, for your NEP of 2024, for Metro Manila Subway, you will have 68.3. Kagaya ng sinabi mo.
Yes, Your Honor, that is correct.
And then for North-South Commuter Railway System, it would be 76.3.
That is correct, Your Honor, Mr. Chairman.
Yusek, would this yung NEP mo for 2024, would it not go the way doon sa 2023 na na-reduce, for example, your North-South Commuter Railway System ang na-reduce by 50 billion and your Metro Manila subway project by 15 billion?
At the outset, Your Honor, Mr. Chairman, the main difference between the two NEPs, the 2023 NEP and the 2024 NEP, is that the 2023 NEP doesn't have any provision for loan proceeds. All GOP counterpart po ito. But for 2024, it has provision for both GOP and loan proceeds component of the foreign assisted project. As to the question of the good congressman, as to the fate of this appropriations or allocation, we submit to the better wisdom of Congress on these appropriations, but we deem that these are the requirements to ensure the timely completion of the priority transportation projects, Your Honor, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Now, let's go to your continuing appropriations and your budgetary adjustments. For 2021 or 2020, your unobligated release for capital outlay, and I think this is released by DBM, but you were not able to obligate it. That's 9.6 billion for unobligated release for capital outlay. In 2021, it's 2.7 billion. And in 2022, it's 9.7 billion. May I know the reason why you were not able to obligate this?
Your Honor, while we're retrieving the files on to validate the figures, but for these past years, based on our assessment, the reason for the non-obligation of the funds by end of the allotments by end of the year are usually brought about by, number one, late release. Mostly these are FLR items for late release items. So mostly because of the late release of the SARO at the latter part of the year, which enabled us, the department, to obligate it on time. Although a portion of those unobligated allotments by year end are treated as continuing appropriations by the following year. So the reverted amount are actually reduced because we were still given one more year to obligate and disburse the funds, Your Honor, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Yusek, Mr. Chair. And for 2022, there's an amount there, Foreign Assisted Project Support Fund, in the amount of 81.7 billion. Correct?
Your Honor, this is in the 2022.
Yes, 2022. I'm speaking about 2022. As part of your unprogrammed fund, under unprogrammed fund, you have Foreign Assisted Project Support Fund in the amount of 81.7 billion. Ang laki nito eh.
Yes, under the current year, Your Honor.
No, 2022.
Yes, Your Honor, 2022 current
Hindi
year.
current year, kasi
Yes.
kung current year, 2023.
Yes, Your Honor, 2022 po.
Yes. Now, how was this? How was this disposed of?
So the unprogrammed appropriations, Mr. Chairman, Your Honor, represents the loan proceeds component of our foreign assisted projects. So these are distributed across the foreign assisted projects and were used to settle the progress billings of the various projects, Your Honor.